he was sitting so perfectly still when a bee came on his long and pointy nose.
Beautiful, very nice. Yeah.
If you get them to put their bags on the chairs there.
Translators in Schools is a professional development programme for translators to equip them with the skills to share their knowledge of languages and cultures within classrooms, and we're looking at the relevance of translation as a skill for a child in the 21st century.
Bit of French.
Bit of French? Nice. English. English? English?
English, Somalian.
Yeah? Yeah, so we've got like at least 8 languages around this table. We're pretty Spanish.
As a teacher, what I like about the structure of a Translators in Schools workshop is there's a definite outcome. Students are going to come up and they're going to present a page from the book that they translated, and they're going to talk about the difficulties that they had in translating that and how they overcame those challenges. The first main activity in the workshop is for students to put in order the images from the book. So to think about, is this a logical order for the story, and then what would be a completely illogical order for the story.
So who's got number 1? I'm going to put number 1 here. And then what happens?
Third, fourth.
Okay.
The way any small child learns to advance through language is often through picture books. So they'll be looking at books where the story is quite complicated, where the language is quite evolved beyond what they would actively be using in their vocabulary. And yet, because the pictures are there, they can pick up on the clues of narrative, register, genre. So in a sense, if we introduce pictures as our first stepping into the water with a new language, we're mimicking that natural process.
Okay, so what I want you to do is tell me what adjectives you think represent the world of the book.
Maybe it could be like adventure. Because
Adventure around the house.
yeah.
He looks tired here, doesn't he?
Or maybe it's
You think he's dreaming? Okay, dreaming.
The Stephen Spender Trust began with the Stephen Spender Prize for Poetry Translation. And I suppose I was a bit surprised at the beginning that teachers weren't keener to run translation activities with their pupils. Modern languages teachers said it wasn't their job to get their children writing in English. And English teachers said that they didn't have the language skills to run translation activities. And so this idea was born.
What I'd like you to do now is take your pencils and I'd like you to write what you think is going on. What would the story say?
You could say, oh, you're so quiet and so nice. Never realised that.
If you say translation to a child, they may have ideas that has to involve a dictionary, that it has to be very accurate, and that may well constrain their imagination. So if we give them full rein on their imagination, then we rein them in and we say, great, put that to a side. We want you to be language detectives. We want you to be code crackers. And we want you, word by word, to break down that code.
So let's look at the text and let's try and understand what it means. And you can use a glossary, which is like a mini dictionary that we got for you here. Pas moyen de dormir. J'ai tout essayé. Peut-être que papa aura une étrinette. Okay, so do you recognize any words in here? Have you ever heard the word papa?
Yes, the dad.
Dad, okay. So peut-être, dad. And then
Maybe dad has an idea.
Literacy is not just about kind of spelling, punctuation and grammar. It's about understanding genre. It's about using the right word in the right context, having a range of words to choose from.
So you had a really nice conversation about this before, didn't you? When we talked about the difference between the word replied and the word responded. Which one did you think was better?
Replied, because if you say responded, replied is like an easy word for the little kids to know first, but responded is like for a year 3 or year 4.
It's someone a little bit older, isn't it? So
Getting them to talk about that and reflect on their choices is fantastic literacy training.
A little bit hard, but then I got used to it and I was like enjoying it. So then after I was like, yeah, I could do this. So it got easier. The fun bit was listening to the sentences mixed around.
Did you ever think you'd be able to translate from Spanish?
No.
Can you?
Yeah.
Translators in Schools addresses a need for students to be able to engage with their linguistic skills without being bracketed into specific kind of community labels. So you may get initiatives for the Somali community or for Portuguese speakers. And the difficulty with that is often those labels don't really describe that student's reality. Students are much more complex than that in the way that they use language, the kind of backgrounds they come from.
I wanted the garden to grow and flourish.
This is a beautiful translation.
So it's great to have projects where students are given a space to engage with their linguistic skills in a more kind of open way that connects with the skills they actually have as opposed to the skills they're supposed to have.
We are in the middle of London Literature Festival here at South Bank Centre, and we really hope that this project can help to bring different generations into the translation process and really feel that translation has a home here at South Bank Centre.
I think at the last count, one of the schools that's here today had 70 different languages spoken within the school. And what's really exciting about workshops like the Big Translate today is that you can celebrate that level of diversity in the school.
Yes, thank you, dear.
My real passion is literary translation, and I think with stories there are different aspects that come into translating them. You go into schools, they rely on Google Translate to help them learn languages, and I think using the stories is a way of showing them that they're so much better than Google Translate could ever be.
You have a really interesting one, an odd bug. What are we going to say about that? Are we going to say odd bug? I was born in Pakistan and we immigrated to Canada. I know what it's like to come and be the odd one out and to have another language at home and maybe a different accent, and sort of how much you try and hide that because it's what makes you different and weird. But what the program does is to really say to children, you know, that other language or those other languages that you speak, you are so lucky that it's such an asset.
I wanted to add a simile into this.
Okay. Well,
Like as big as Mount Everest.
Oh, that's a good idea.
An enormous cat as big as Mount Everest.
One of the great things about the English language is that it's always been very porous and open to other influences.
El señor Ramón y la señora Ramona estaban durmiendo. De pronto, algo extraño sobresaltó a la señora Ramona.
Translators in Schools is about encouraging young people to value their linguistic skills. They might use these as a vibrant way of communicating with their friends. Their versatility might give them the edge in the workplace, or, in some cases, they might even consider translation as a life choice and career.
Mr. Ramon and Mrs. Ramona were sleeping peacefully, like bears hibernating in the winter months.
Suddenly, something bizarre surprised Mrs. Ramona. It was an eerie, high-pitched noise coming from the kitchen.